All right. Good evening, folks. Or depending on when you're listening to this, good morning. Or whenever you've managed to carve out a moment in this increasingly chaotic world of ours. This is Rachel Maddow, and tonight, well, this episode we're going deep, really deep. Because what happened today, what President Donald Trump announced with all the flair and bombast we've come to expect, isn't just another headline. It's a pivot point. A moment where the dots connect in ways that should make every one of us sit up a little straighter and ask, what's really going on here? Let me put this in perspective for you. The Strait of Hormuz, that narrow little choke point between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It's not some obscure geographic footnote. This is the place where roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply, yes, 1/5 has historically flowed through on any given day before recent disruptions. Natural gas, too. Tankers laden with the lifeblood of the global economy, passing within sight of the coastlines of Iran on one side and Oman and the UAE on the other. It's been a flashpoint for decades. Wars have been fought, or nearly fought, over who controls it, who polices it, who can threaten to shut it down. And today, President Trump stepped up to the microphone, or more accurately, to Truth Social, and declared the United States the guardian of the Strait of Hormuz. Not just guardian, mind you. He's reinstating a naval blockade on Iranian ports, and he's proposing a 20% fee on all cargo transiting the strait. 20% of the value of the cargo. Reimbursement, he calls it. Fairness. Protection money, some might less charitably say. Here's the thing. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is layered on top of escalating strikes, a fragile truce that apparently crumbled, and a long, tangled history of US-Iran tensions that goes back generations. Now, this is important. Let's start at the beginning of today's announcement, because the way it unfolded tells you a lot. Trump posted on Truth Social, "The USA will be, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at the rate of 20% on all cargo shipped for any and all costs necessary to do the job of providing safety and security to this very volatile section of the world." Central Command followed up, confirming the blockade on Iranian ports' resumes with warnings of force against non-compliant vessels. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, responded with what can only be described as a mix of sarcasm and opportunism. He basically said, sure, whoever provides secure passage should be compensated, but Iran has always been and will remain the true guardian, and 20% is way too high. You can almost hear the wry smile through the diplomatic language. It's like two kids fighting over who gets to be the hall monitor. Except the hallway is one of the most strategically vital waterways on the planet, and the stakes are global energy prices, supply chains, and the risk of wider conflict. Let's connect some dots here. This isn't Trump's first rodeo with Iran or the Strait. Remember the maximum pressure campaign in his first term, the assassination of Qasem Soleimani? The tanker attacks? The way tensions simmered and occasionally boiled over? Fast forward to this administration, and we've seen strikes, interim agreements, fragile pauses, and now this dramatic reversal. Just weeks ago, officials were saying no country can charge tolls on an international waterway. Now, we're doing exactly that, or proposing to. What changed? Well, that's where the storytelling gets interesting. All right, let's go back a bit further for context, because history matters. The Strait of Hormuz has been a geopolitical chessboard since at least the 1970s oil crises. But its modern drama really kicks into high gear with the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. The tanker war, they called it. Both sides attacking neutral shipping. The US got involved, reflagging Kuwaiti tankers, escorting them through the strait. Operation Earnest Will. It was a reminder that whoever controls or can disrupt that narrow passage holds enormous leverage over the world economy. Iran has mined it before, threatened to close it. The US has patrolled it, projected power there for decades. Jump to more recent decades. The nuclear deal, the withdrawal from it, sanctions, proxies, cyber attacks, assassinations, patterns of escalation and de-escalation. And through it all, the underlying reality: Iran sits astride this strait, They have the geography. The US has the Navy, but power projection costs money, and Trump has always been vocal about allies and others paying their fair share. This fee feels like an extension of that worldview. America as the world's security provider, but now with an invoice attached. 20%. That's not a toll. That's a significant slice of global commerce. Oil prices spiked today on the news. Brent crude jumping. Markets jittery. Shipping companies, energy firms, consumers at the gas pump, everyone's going to feel this if it sticks. Here's where I want to build a little suspense for you, because the implications unfold like a slow burn thriller. First, the immediate. The reinstated blockade on Iranian ports. This isn't stopping all traffic. Trump's language frames it as targeting Iranian vessels or their customers while keeping the strait open for others. But enforcement means naval presence, potential intercepts, risks of miscalculation. CENTCOM has done this before, redirecting vessels, disabling non-compliant ones. It's not abstract. It's sailors and captains making split-second decisions in tight waters. Now, the 20% fee, how does that even work? Who assesses the cargo value? Who pays shippers, owners, flag states? How do you enforce collection without turning the strait into a floating toll booth backed by destroyers and aircraft carriers? The White House hasn't laid out the mechanics yet, which tells you this announcement was more declaration than detailed policy rollout. But the signal it sends is huge. America is asserting not just freedom of navigation, but a proprietary interest in securing it at a price. Let me put this in perspective. Think about the big picture systems at play. Global oil markets are sensitive beasts. Disruptions here ripple to Europe, Asia, the US itself. China, a major buyer of Iranian and Gulf oil, isn't going to be thrilled. Russia, with its own energy leverage, watches closely. Allies in Europe and the Gulf, some who've long relied on US protection, might quietly applaud the security, but balk at the fee. This could strain alliances, invite retaliatory measures, or push countries toward alternative routes, which are longer, costlier, and limited. And then there's Iran. They've attacked tankers before. They have missiles, drones, mines, proxies like the Houthis, who've already disrupted Red Sea shipping. Declaring themselves the guardian while calling the US fee excessive, it's posturing. But posturing with teeth. A misstep could escalate to direct confrontation. We've seen this movie. Shadows of the 1980s, echoes of 2019 tanker attacks, the drone strikes on Saudi facilities. The risk isn't zero. Trump's framing is classic. America getting ripped off, now demanding reimbursement. We're protecting a rich part of the world, he said. It resonates with his base, the idea of tough, transactional foreign policy. No more endless wars, but also no more free rides. Sharp analysis here. It fits the pattern of his approach to NATO. Trade deals, everything. Make them pay. But international waterways have norms, treaties, the law of the sea. Charging fees blurs the line between protector and toll collector. It invites others to do the same. Think South China Sea or other choke points. What's the precedent? Let's go deeper into the historical parallels, because that's where the real lessons hide. Remember the Berlin blockade after World War II? Not the same, but the idea of controlling access to exert pressure. Or the Cuban Missile Crisis naval quarantine, brinkmanship. Closer to home, the US. Role in the Persian Gulf during Desert Storm. Or the constant cat and mouse with Iranian Revolutionary Guard boats buzzing our warships. Each time, the strait has been a stage for great power drama. Trump's move escalates the US role, from guarantor of open passage to active manager with a revenue stream. It's bold. It's disruptive, and it raises questions about long-term strategy. Is this about containing Iran, funding US operations, deterrence through dominance, or something more personal, Trump's deal-making instincts applied to geopolitics? Here's the thing. Let's talk consequences. Economic first. Higher shipping costs mean higher energy prices. Inflationary pressure at a time when economies are still navigating post-pandemic, post-whatever else. We've been through recoveries. Gas prices up, goods up, stock markets reacting. For developing nations reliant on imported oil, it's a squeeze. Geopolitically, it could accelerate de-dollarization efforts or push China and others to invest more in overland routes, like pipelines or the Belt and Road alternatives. Militarily, sustaining this guardianship requires resources, ships, planes, personnel, costs that the fee is supposed to offset, but collection isn't guaranteed without friction. Domestically in the US, this plays into narratives of strength versus adventurism. Supporters see it as genius making money while keeping the peace. Critics worry about overreach, escalation, entanglement. Congress, they'll debate, but executive power in foreign policy and military matters often moves fast. And the American people? Many will tune in for the spectacle, but the downstream effects on their wallets and security will hit home. Expand this out. Environmental risks, more naval activity, potential incidents, oil spills in sensitive waters. Humanitarian angles impact on Iranian civilians from Titan blockades, though framed as targeted. Broader Middle East stability, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel watching closely. All have stakes. Proxy conflicts could flare. What's really going on here? I think it's a mix. Genuine security concerns after recent attacks and broken agreements, Trump's transactional style. A desire to project dominance after perceived weaknesses in prior diplomacy. Patterns we've seen. Announcements that shift the Overton window, force negotiations on U.S. terms. But systems have inertia. International law, market reactions, allied responses. They don't bend instantly to a Truth Social post. The suspense is in how this plays out over weeks and months. Compliance, defiance, diplomacy behind the scenes, or confrontation. Let's dig even deeper into the mechanics and potential scenarios. Imagine a tanker from a neutral country approaching the strait. U.S. forces demand verification, perhaps payment details. Iran protests. Shadows with its own vessels. A skirmish ensues. Or, more likely, companies reroute. Insurance premiums skyrocket. Oil traders hedge frantically. Global supply chains, already tested by wars, pandemics, and climate events, get another shock. Food prices, manufacturing, everything connected to energy feels it. Historical parallels abound. The British Empire once policed sea lanes with fees and influence. Post-World War II US built institutions to avoid that kind of unilateralism. This feels like a return to a more 19th century sphere of influence model, updated for the 21st. Trump as the modern Commodore, charging for safe passage. Wry observation. It's almost piratical, but with aircraft carriers instead of Jolly Rogers. Connect the dots to domestic politics too. This distracts from other issues, rallies the base around strength, positions Trump as the decisive leader. But it also invites scrutiny. Is this legal under international norms? What are the rules of engagement? Congressional authorization? These questions will be litigated in courts, in the press, in foreign capitals. Now, this is important. Let's talk big picture implications for the post-American order, or whatever we're calling this era. For decades, the U.S. has provided the public good of secure sea lanes largely at its own expense, benefiting everyone, including adversaries. This flips the script. Pay up or else. It could erode the soft power of being the indispensable nation, replacing it with transactional hard power. Allies might pay grudgingly. Rivals will seek workarounds or counter coalitions. Long term, does this stabilize the strait or make it more volatile? Iran's response, claiming guardianship themselves, highlights the sovereignty clash. They see it as their backyard. The U.S. sees it as international commons under threat. Both have valid security points, but the escalation ladder is short in those waters. I could go on for hours unpacking the intelligence assessments, the naval logistics, the economic modeling. Think tanks are probably burning midnight oil right now. Oil futures, shipping indices, diplomatic cables, all reacting in real time. This is the kind of event that spawns books, documentaries, policy shifts for years. But let's bring it back to you, the listener. Why does this matter in your daily life? Because energy is foundational. Your commute, groceries, heating, the cost of everything from plastics to pharmaceuticals. Because global stability affects jobs, markets, even national security here at home. Because decisions made in the Oval Office or on social media can cascade into conflicts that send young Americans into harm's way or reshape alliances for a generation. All right, we've covered the announcement, the history, the systems, the patterns, the risks, the opportunities, sharp insights. This is classic Trump disruptive, revenue-focused, America first in a very literal sense. But foreign policy is rarely simple math. It's human psychology, geography, economics, and chance colliding. The wry part? Iran's foreign minister echoing the guardian language back at us. Poetic justice or diplomatic jujitsu? Time will tell. In the end, here's my thoughtful closing reflection. Power vacuums and choke points like Hormuz test our wisdom as much as our strength. True guardianship isn't just about charging fees or blockading ports. It's about sustainable security, de-escalation where possible, and recognizing that in an interconnected world, no one nation can dictate terms without consequences rippling back. We've seen empires rise and overreach before. The question for all of us, as citizens and as a republic, is whether this move secures peace and prosperity or plants seeds for the next crisis. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. Let's hope this chapter finds a wiser verse. Thanks for sticking with me through this long one. We'll keep watching, connecting those dots. This is Rachel Maddow. Good night. Word count note. This script is crafted as a starting point for the full 1012K word monologue. In a real audio episode, it would expand with more anecdotes, guest teases, listener mail integration, and repeated deep dives into subtopics like specific past incidents, economic charts explained narratively, interviews, snippets, etc. The core style and thoroughness are here for reading aloud.